Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. This is our 144th show. My name is Rosemary LaChance, and I'm an energy healer and a spiritual therapist. And my co-host?
I am Barbara Slane, director of the Life Balance Center and also educational website, My Healing Rooms.
And we are the co-hosts for this thought-provoking series, and we are dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more, in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. If you know of any subject you would like us to discuss, or if you know of anyone you would think would make an interesting guest, please let us know. Please like the show on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box, where you can learn about and see pictures of some of our past guests and ask questions or leave a comment. Enjoy the show. Okay, tonight's show, we welcome Andrea Candee, master, herbalist, and author. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Welcome. The title of our show is The Herbal Kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me give you a little more information about Andrea. She is well versed in the benefits of nature's pharmacy. Master herbalist Andrea Candee. She brings over 30 years experience in the natural health world to her seminars on medicinal herbs. A motivational speaker, her workshops have been enthusiastically received throughout the country by those new to healing plants as well as experienced practitioners. Andrea has brought her lectures on herbal self-help to educational facilities, corporations, health food stores, spas, focus groups, garden clubs, international conferences, and cruise ships. As instructor for the New York Botanical Garden, she participates in international symposiums on healing plants and presents workshops on botanical medicine. Andrea has written and hosted The Healing Power of Herbs for television and Revealing Secrets for Mind and Body for radio. Her articles and question and answer columns have been regular features in the print media and on natural websites. She has been interviewed on national television and radio, BBC London, and has been featured in newspapers and magazines such as the New York Times, the New York Post, USA Today, Natural Health, Self, and New Woman. Andrea also works in the Life Balance Center in Western Connecticut, owned and presented by Barbara Shane, my co-host, coaching alkaline wellness programs and liquid feasts. Okay, wow, that's quite a bit there. You've been around.
Well, the one thing you didn't mention is what my practice is involved in every day, and that's working with chronic Lyme disease.
Oh.
That's what I'm known for all over the country.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. People are very interested in that. The very first question we always ask all our guests is, what made you get into this field?
Well, when I was a teenager, my dad had a major coronary when he was 40. And he went on major medications at the time that had terrible side effects, and something in me said there had to be another way.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, all you could find was Adele Davis and Prevention Magazine.
You're right, I remember that.
So those were my Bibles, and I would show him the latest, greatest studies, and he would say, that's very nice, and went on his path, and his journey took him to passing at age 56.
Oh.
And the journey took me to explore natural remedies and nutritional supplements and things like that.
Meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Meant to be. Okay.
What's so amazing to me, and I've worked with you, you've done workshops at the center, is that our kitchen is a medicine box.
Yeah.
And I just find it so fascinating when there are foods that we use every day and you point out to us how they can help. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorites, I'm just going to start with something fun, is what you told me to do when my daughter sprained her ankle.
Right.
So can we just start with that? It's kind of something fun.
Right.
I wasn't very popular that day, but maybe you could share that with us.
Yes, the lowly onion, I call it, the lowly onion. So we're talking about an onion that's either white or yellow, not red onion. And there's actually quite a number of things that you can do with onion. So in the case of Barbara's daughter with a sprained ankle, onion has anti-inflammatory properties. So what you do is you thinly slice an onion and you wrap it around the affected area, and then you just affix the onion in place neatly, say with an ace bandage or sock. And what you're doing is you're making a poultice. And poultice sounds so ancient, but it's merely a moist mass of herb. And so by putting the onion around the ankle and putting it in place, all the anti-inflammatory properties of the onion are now being absorbed into the body. So when you make a poultice, you want to make it very neat, because they'll never let you at them again to do that poultice, so it has to be very neat. That's why I say wrap it up and, you know, put a sock over it. And overnight, that inflammation gets pulled out. Now here's the reason why. When you have an impact, either you've hit something in the body or you've sprained something, all the healing chemicals of the body, the healing constituents of the body, rush to that area to help heal it. And then you have swelling. And when you have the swelling, all that wonderful stuff that's rushed to the area stagnates there. It gets trapped there. And that causes swelling, pain, black and blue. So if you put an ice pack on it, ice pack reduces swelling. But onion moves lymphatic flow. So it starts to move that stagnating material out of there, so that now the swelling comes down, and of course it reduces the pain. My sons were athletes, and I was a good mother. I didn't run out on the field with weird stuff and embarrass them. But when they would get hurt on the field, their coach would give them an ice pack, and they always knew when we came home they'd give me the ice pack so I could put on an onion pack.
Wow.
So that's one way of using onion. But while we're talking about onion, let's talk about the other ways to use it. So if you have, when you think about onion being anti-inflammatory, if you have a bee sting, you just cut a slice of onion and put it on. For stopping the itch of a mosquito bite, you take a fresh cut of onion and rub the juicy surface on the bite, and then put the onion back in the refrigerator, and you need it later on, do it again. When my sons were little and they would cough in the night, you know how it is when you're a parent and your child is coughing through the night, you're lying awake and they're asleep. So when I couldn't stand it any longer, I would go in the kitchen and take an onion, thinly slice it, and wrap it up in a piece of cheesecloth, make like a little envelope, and then put it on their chest. And by the time I got from the bed to the door of the room, the coughing stopped. Now that's amazing. That there wasn't enough time for anything to happen except for them to inhale the sulfuric fumes of the onion. And that's like true aromatherapy. So the room didn't smell great in the morning, but it was worth a night's sleep.
You stay on his back all night long
Right.
with an onion on it?
And well, what I did was I would put it on and cover it with a T-shirt.
Oh, so it stayed.
And stayed on. And it was a great way to stop the coughing.
Wow.
Yeah, so onion's a great
Yeah.
remedy. If you have a sore throat, you can chop up onion, mix it with some honey, steam the onion, mix it with some honey, and eat it. And that's a very good way to get the benefits of the honey, of the onion in with honey, which is also quite
And
healing.
I've also heard if you want to sleep in the bed alone, use an onion.
You know, actually in Europe, onion is a very popular remedy. When people have colds or ear infections, they'll cut the onion in half and sit it next to the bed on the nightstand so that they can inhale those sulfuric fumes. Or if a child has an ear infection, you cut the onion in half, take those two halves, wrap them in cheesecloth, and steam them. And now you take the one and hold it on the ear, it pulls out the pain. When that cools down, now you have the other one, and you put the other one on the ear, and you keep rotating.
I have a question. I've heard, and there's a lot of articles, that if you cut an onion in the kitchen, that you're not supposed to leave it because it attracts the bacteria. Is that
I've
true?
heard that, and I
Right.
do not know
What
if
is
that's
that?
true or
I
not.
mean, because that could be a
don't know.
dangerous onion then.
That's right. I don't know if that's true because of the sulfuric content. I would tend to think it's not, but of course, any produce breaks down and attracts bacteria to it in its decay. So.
Interesting. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And then another one of my favorites is the banana, which this is very interesting.
Yes. I get more emails from people who've read about banana in my book than any other remedy that I've written about. So if you have a splinter, a sliver of glass, or maybe a tick part left behind. You need to pull that out without digging into the skin. So you take a banana that's ripe, and you know it's ripe when you see brown spots on the peel. So you're making a bandage from the peel. So you cut that part of the peel that has the brown spots. With the pulp side to the skin, you tape it on using some surgical tape. And overnight, I should say when the banana is ripe, the enzymes are high. And the enzymes have a drying action. So overnight, the enzymes are pulling out the foreign matter from the skin. So you'll either find the splinter right at the surface, or you might find it in the banana. I had a client who was a client for a very long time before she had a child. And now she had a 2-year-old who stepped on a deck with pressure-treated wood. And she called me hysterically, saying that it was a very big splinter that went straight up into his foot. And she brought him right away to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, what do you expect me to do? I'm not going to cut his foot open. She was hysterical, as you can well imagine. And pressure-treated wood has arsenic and all kinds of chemicals in it. So I said, but you know what to do. Look in the book. The book is called Gentle Healing for Baby and Child, and she had it for her child. And there it tells you exactly that, to do the banana, only because it was so deep. I felt it needed more time than just overnight, so I suggested that she do it for 3 nights, a fresh banana peel for 3 nights. And after the 3 nights, it came right to the surface, and she said you could see it was a very big splinter, but it drew it right out.
Wow.
So you'd be amazed. Would be amazed what
And
you
the poisons
could do.
that were in the wood, that would help that
Pulled
too?
it out, yes.
Oh,
I've
great.
done that for myself. I've done it when I had a tick part left behind, and I had it on my face, and it pulled it out. A good friend of ours is a concert pianist. This is a funny story. A concert pianist is a lot of work, because you got to make sure that those hands are just, you know, really protected. And we were staying at a venue where he was going to be performing the next day, and he ran his hand on the deck and got a splinter. Now, I don't know who was more upset, me or him, but that's a scary thing when you're taking care of someone who's going to perform and they have a splinter in their hand. And it was now about 11 o'clock at night, and all the markets were closed, so I knew that I couldn't go get a banana anywhere. But I knew there was a Holiday Inn up the road. So we went into the Holiday Inn, and I said, I'm sure you served banana for breakfast. They said, yes. I said, can I go through your garbage? And I did, and found a ripe banana peel, and that pulled the splinter out for the next day.
Wow. How about that?
It's so comforting, and I think that this is an age where people are trying to be more resourceful and more self-reliant. And the beauty of what you do and what's in your book is that these are remedies that are kind of God-given. I mean, they're there. It's, you know, it's on the earth, and that's
people have
what's
been
so
using
exciting.
them for thousands of years.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And then it goes into more herbal remedies. Can you tell us about your, you know, I mean, there's the food, right? And then there's also the whole herbal remedy practice.
I mean, herbs have been around for thousands of years, and certainly the Chinese have used them for a long, long time. I use American and European herbs. So, as a great example, a very well-known herb, echinacea.
Oh, yeah.
Echinacea is known very well by a lot of people.
Yeah.
But you know what? That herb has changed more families' lives than any other herb I know, and it's also the most misused herb.
Really?
Yeah, so let me tell you about the best way to use echinacea. So you need a little mini lesson in pharmacology. There are herbs that are 100% water-soluble. So, for example, peppermint leaf. You take a teaspoon of peppermint, you steep it in a cup of boiled water, cover it for 15 minutes, and you have a medicinal cup of peppermint tea. Osha root is an herb that is more common to the West Coast herbalist repertoire. It's highly antimicrobial. You save it for like really virulent infection. And if you put Osha root in that boiled water, you'd get nothing, because Osha root is 100% alcohol soluble. So it needs alcohol to pull its chemical constituents out. And the word chemical sounds disconcerting with herbs, but the fact is that herbs are mini chemical factories.
Right,
only naturally
natural
occurring.
chemicals, yeah.
Right. Now, echinacea is an herb that's water and alcohol soluble. So if you just take echinacea and put it in a cup of tea, you don't pull out all its chemical constituents. If you take echinacea in a capsule, you don't have the water or the alcohol. If you take echinacea in a children's formula made in a base of glycerin, again, you don't have the water and alcohol. So people will tell me, you know, I've used echinacea in alcohol base, but yet when I give it to my kids, echinacea for kids, it doesn't work. Right, because it wasn't in the alcohol base. You need the water and the alcohol to pull all the chemical constituents out of the echinacea.
Well, what about the liquids that's in your stomach? Because I've taken the capsules, the roots, and they work for me in the capsule.
But you're not getting the full punch of the echinacea. You don't know how much better it would be working for you if it was in the alcohol extract. So we give infants the alcohol extract because you're dosing by weight. So you're only giving, you know, a few drops to an infant. We give people who are alcohol sensitive the echinacea, physically alcohol sensitive. If it's emotionally or mentally or psychologically alcohol, that's something else. Then they have to see what they can do about that. They may not be comfortable with an alcohol base. But to get the most punch out of the echinacea, you need both as the medium to pull the chemicals out. So the best form to use it in is an alcohol extract, which you can find in the health food store. So echinacea is an herb that stimulates the immune system. It has antimicrobial properties, antibacterial, antiviral, but that's not why we use that herb. We use that herb to stimulate the immune system. So, for example, if you are in flu season, your body's under stress, then you might go on echinacea 10 days on, 4 days off. Why the on and off? Echinacea is a completely non-toxic herb, but if you're on it all the time, you will build an immunity to it. So you don't want your echinacea to show up in your vitamin supplements, for example, and that you be taking it every day, because then it won't be effective when you really need it. So you take it on a cycle of on and off. So people who are under stress, for example, oftentimes find that stress is a very immunodepressant thing for them. So some people will say to me, well, you know, work is very stressful. So for them, their on and off is on during the work week, off on the weekend. Then there are people who say work is sublime. it's home life that's stressful. So you be on echinacea Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come off during the work week. So that's how you can cycle on and off of it. If you have a child who's gone to school and comes home and says, the kid I played with was sick, their mother will take care of that kid. You take care of yours by giving your child echinacea 2 or 3 times for a day or two to stimulate their immune system so they don't pick up what they were exposed to.
Now you have a whole, I know echinacea is a piece of it, but you have a whole winter flu prevention protocol that you send out to your clients, and that's on your website.
Yep.
That is, it's really wonderful.
Thank you.
That every winter and
every
you
fall
send it out, and it's a whole, it's a
yeah. What I have found over the course of the year is, you know, the best protocols that I have found for cold and flu prevention. It's and you can email me. I'm always happy to send it out. It's herbs to prevent, and it's herbs to treat. So depending upon, you know, what those symptoms are, whether they're sinus symptoms or chest bronchial symptoms. But I think that prevention is a really important one. And what I'd like to mention is a product called mucococcinum. And I always have to put this out there. I have no financial connection to any products. I have the freedom to pick and choose what I think is best. So in my herbal pharmacy in my office, you see many different brands. It's an ordering nightmare, but I have the freedom to pick what I think is the best adrenal formula from them and the lymph formula from them. And so there's a product called mucococcinum that you won't see on the health food store shelves. It comes from Canada. And it's different from the oscillococcinum that you do see in the health food store, because that you use when you have the flu. But mucococcinum stimulates the immune system, and you take 1 tablet every 2 weeks.
Homeopathic, right?
Homeopathic, meaning that you take it 20 minutes away from food or drink. So instead of doing flu shots, we do 1 tablet of mucococcinum every 2 weeks in flu season from October to April. if you have a symptom coming up and you feel like, not quite right, maybe I'm picking up something, you take a mucococcinum once, maybe twice in a day, and it's done.
It's powerful
It's
little,
powerful
yeah,
little
it's
thing.
amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've used it for years with clients.
So there are ways for people to avoid this pharmacology and pushing flu injections, which have a whole host of negative effects on the body. That everything's available to heal gently and easily and naturally.
And know you have a choice.
Right.
But the thing about having choice is the responsibility to educate yourself. So that's why you listen to programs like this. This is why I teach at New York Botanical Garden. I lecture all over the place so people can be empowered to make their own choices.
It's very important. And so that's why signing up for Andrea's newsletter is great, because she sends out a lot of free advice, you know, and it's, again, it's all about empowering and educating, because it's easy to go down a different road. And then that has a whole spiral effect of side effects, and then before you know it, you're, you know, a walking drugstore.
I'm not against conventional medicine, but I think it has its place. I think it's failed us in chronic illness. I think it's magnificent in the emergency room.
Yeah, right.
But I think that you need to take the best of both worlds, and you know, going and having the best of the medical tests that are available is great, but then know that you have a choice about how you're going to handle it. And so you get all the information from your physician, from your holistic practitioners, and then decide how you're going to do it.
Well, usually the physicians treat the symptoms mostly. And, you know, and yourself, herbalists, and naturopaths treat the problem to get rid of it once and for all.
Look to get to the underlying causes.
Right. So that's the difference. But the doctors are wonderful for broken bones and
you bet
operations and things like that. Yeah,
It's finding
sure.
that healthy kind of marriage between the
Right.
two, and the healthy respect, and meeting in the middle. And
So
just
let me give you an
respecting each
example
other.
about broken bones.
Okay. I don't want a real example.
Last summer, I'm a good example. Last summer,
Oh, right.
I broke my ankle. And the orthopedic, of course I went right to the emergency room. In fact, I'll tell you something. When I broke my ankle, it was late at night, and I thought I sprained it. So I put onion on it first. And had it been a sprain, the onion would have worked. But by the middle of the night, I was in so much pain, I knew it was not a sprain. So I went to the ER. Now, they did what they're going to do and sent me to an orthopedist. The orthopedist wanted to operate, and I asked for time. And I said, look, I would like to do my herbal thing. This is what I do. I give him a huge amount of credit, said, okay, but let me follow you. So I had to come back weekly so he could x-ray and see how things were progressing. And he said to me, you cannot touch your foot to the floor if you're going to do it this way. So hopping got old real fast, but that's what I did. And every night I poulticed my ankle with a formula called bone, flesh, and cartilage, BF and C. It's a very important formula for people to know about. It's made by Dr. Christopher, whom I was blessed to be mentored by in his work. And you can get it online. It's an easy formula to find. And you take 2 teaspoons of this powdered herbal mix and steep it in half a cup of boiled water. Strain it, and then take a cloth, dip it in the liquid, and I wrapped my ankle with it every night, cover it with plastic so it didn't stain the bed sheets, etc. He felt that the normal progression of healing would have been 8 to 12 weeks. In 4 weeks, it was healed.
It just knitted together, you mean?
That's what
bones?
the herbs do. This formula, I can't explain it to you how it works, but it makes the tissue do what it's supposed to do. 20 years ago, I used it for the broken bones in both my feet at the same time. And they healed badly and painfully. And when I went back, he said, he showed me the x-ray. He said, look what they look like. We have to re-break them. I said, I'm not re-breaking them. Give me time. And I poulticed them, and they healed perfectly.
Wow.
So I can't explain why, but it works.
I think
Wow.
that's the difference sometimes between doctors and medicine is time.
Yeah.
We're so used to things happening, we want it done quickly. So
Silver
do we
bullet.
have the patience to let our bodies heal along with natural modalities, you know, remedies like herbs, or do we want to do it quickly, which then will often have, you know, other issues that...
But you know what? also, when we do it slowly, we have a healing journey to go on.
Exactly.
It may be an emotional one, a spiritual one. You never know what's going to unfold during that period of time.
Yeah, right.
And that's all part of the program.
Right. We
That's
don't want to.
right.
We don't want to stay in it too long. Any kind of pain.
Right.
Right. We kind of run and we flee. And
Yeah.
you're right. There's also so much, often healing there for us
Right.
if we stop.
That's right. That's right. So keep that in your repertoire. Bone, flesh, and cartilage. It's a good one to know about. I've saved a lot of people from different kinds of surgeries using that.
And even something simple I love is for headaches and stomach aches is peppermint. It's
Yes.
one of these just easy oils, right?
Yep, you can either use the herbal form of it. So as I said before, steep a teaspoon of the herb in a cup of boiled water for 15 minutes. Or you can use oil of peppermint, 1 or 2 drops. Actually 1. If it's a good strong peppermint, 1 drop is enough to a cup of water. And then you close your eyes so it doesn't sting the eyes, and you inhale it. That's your aromatherapy. You sip it, and it resolves headaches, stomach aches. It lifts energy. You could put 10 drops of peppermint oil in a bath to bathe in the morning to get your day started. You could put, if you're very careful, you could put a little bit right here in the sinus area or underneath to breathe it in to open up the sinuses. You don't want to do too much because you don't want to get it in your eyes. You could put some on a handkerchief. Sometimes when I'm traveling in a polluted city in another country, I'll put some peppermint oil in a handkerchief and carry it around with me. Peppermint has some pretty wonderful properties to it.
This bone thing that you have now, would that be good for arthritis, or is there something
The
else?
bone, flesh, and teeth?
Yeah.
No. That's for strains and broken bones
Right.
and things like that. For arthritis, one of the best herbs is curcumin. And that is the active ingredient in the herb turmeric.
Right.
So people could put turmeric in their food. If they don't want all their food tasting of turmeric, then they could take an herbal supplement that's curcumin, which is the active ingredient. And it's an anti-inflammatory and very good for joints.
And
Does it
that's-
help to heal
sorry.
the joint, or is there anything that can help that, or is it just for the inflammation?
Well, it depends upon what you're looking at. So, if you're looking at joint and cartilage issues, this is something I did with Barbara. I had joint and cartilage issues from a spider bite, which set up an autoimmune response in my body that was eating at cartilage. Now, someone with arthritis could have that issue.
Right.
And it was giving me a tremendous amount of joint pain and fatigue. And at the time, Barbara was doing the liquid feasts at her Life Balance Center, and I came. We had known each other already. She had taken
I
a
went to
workshop
one of
with me.
Andrea's,
but,
right.
But now I knew that Barbara was doing this program, and frankly, it was a last resort for me. I had tried everything else, and I was not getting results. And I went into this alkaline program, this liquid feast, which is liquid alkaline foods to begin with, and then an alkaline eating program. And it was the most amazing thing. In a week, my pain started to leave, and my energy came back. And I was a very healthy eater up to that point. But I had gone gluten-free, and gluten-free is another whole subject
God,
that we
that's
can
like-
talk about in a minute. Let's go back to that because I think that's important to touch upon. But in doing the alkaline program, I did it very seriously there for quite a long time. I was
Long
100% alkaline, and then I transitioned and became 80, and that's where I pretty much sit, around 80% alkaline. But the interesting thing is, not only did I get the benefit at the time, side effect, by the way, was a loss of 25 pounds,
Oh.
and my cholesterol went right down. So that was a great side effect. But when I broke my ankle last summer, I said to them, would you x-ray my hips? Because now I'd been on the alkaline program, about 4 years at that point. Would you x-ray my hips? I'd like to know, so I could, for myself, compare it to the x-ray of years back. And they didn't know that I had ever had a problem. And they came in and said to me, well, there's just a little bit of arthritis in your hips. I said, and both hips the same? They said, yes. So that means that being on the alkaline program stopped bathing my cartilage in acid and allowed the body to grow cartilage.
Ah.
And I want to say that when we talk about alkaline, because it's such a buzzword,
Yeah.
it really means clean, green, food that is not acidic, but food that is just really healthy food for your body.
Whole healthy food.
Whole healthy food. Now, for some people, that might mean occasional fish or wild fish, or for other people, no. Some people might tolerate other foods that others can't, but if you could be even 75%,
Absolutely.
it balances it out.
Right.
Because we have to be human too,
Right.
and I think it's kind of an unknown, this whole alkaline. It's
But
confusing to people.
why was it such a dramatic difference for me when I was a healthy eater? Because of this whole gluten-free fad.
And the yogurt.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And so by going gluten-free, first of all, people have done it as a fad. Years ago, I mean, there are plenty of people who are celiac, who cannot eat gluten.
Right.
That's a very physical, disabling
exactly.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
And years ago, they could never find the gluten-free foods. Now they're everywhere.
Right, exactly.
That's because wheat used to grow this high, and now wheat grows this high. And the gluten molecule, which is the protein in the wheat, has become very concentrated. They're GMOs.
GMOs,
Right.
huge.
And become inflammatory to many people.
Exactly.
That's the issue. So the problem is that when you do gluten-free foods, what have all these companies done in their gluten-free packaged foods? They've replaced the wheat with rice, which is acidic, corn, which is acidic and high in sugar,
Tapioca
starch,
potato starch. It's like
more sugar.
So the message
They're
here is
healthy,
that
unhealthy foods.
gluten-free does not mean healthy. You have to read the labels, because
Right.
there's a lot of healthy food out there, but gluten-free is not a pass to healthy food. As a matter of
Exactly.
fact, it could be more unhealthy.
Oh, it is more
It can be.
Right.
And the other crazy thing is you hear that people go to Europe and they eat the bread because of just all of the commercialism and all the way the wheat is grown and all the GMO and everything.
It's a
This is
different
now-
wheat.
It's not even a food.
Right.
It's really scary.
Right.
But we have come up with the most amazing gluten-free recipes.
Oh, gosh,
I mean,
yes.
and snacks.
Yeah.
And one, we'll just tell you, since we're talking about it, is Deland Bakery has a zucchini and millet bread that is better than regular
Yeah.
bread,
Better than
right? I
regular
gave it
bread.
to you, Rosemary.
And
They have
millet bagels.
Take
It's
'em,
so
eat that all the
delicious.
time, yep.
So you can email Andrea or me, Life Balance, Andrea, and we'll give you some resources.
Yeah.
Even
Because-
myself, I'll tell you where to buy it also. So that's
the one
great.
thing I did want to say, which I think is an exciting bridge between the communities, the medical community and the natural community, is curcumin. Because there are so many reports by the medical association, scientific reports on the benefits of curcumin. So now it's, doctors recommend it and hospitals. So curcumin has kind of bridged the gap
Yeah.
between, the naturopaths and the homeopaths and the herbalists and the medical. So it's so nice to see that is now seen as, it's a medicine.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
We could label it as that, and that they say to use it preventatively for women's health, for any kind of inflammation in the body. So
Cholesterol
have
as
a
well.
lot of curcumin, yeah.
Curcumin is turmeric, by the way,
Turmeric.
out
Right.
there.
The active
so you know,
ingredient.
yeah.
And then be
turmeric.
careful, because there are a lot of brands. So again, you have to be careful to make sure you get a good quality and one that's easily absorbed, because not all of them can be absorbed readily
Right.
in the body.
Right, exactly.
So we love curcumin, yay. And then, like, there are other herbs that are actually good for your psyche, your mental condition, like holy basil. I have heard is very good for your mental health. It can lift your spirits.
There are herbs that lift your spirits. Look at lavender.
Lavender. And
Lavender is a great one. You can use it as an essential oil. Put it on your pillow so that you inhale it. Put it
Well,
in
you
your
know
clothing.
what I got recently
What?
from my smoothies? Lavender powder. And I put a pinch in our alkaline avocado smoothie, and it just is really nice.
Nice.
So good.
Yeah.
I have to give you some.
People use that lavender for burns as well. It's one of the only essential oils that you can apply directly to the skin. And it's wonderful for a burn.
Directly on the burn?
Directly on the burn.
Wow.
I've done it myself.
See,
Really good.
God gave us our own natural pharmacy. Man came along finally as he grew through the ages and decides, oh, how can I make money on this? Right? So he picked it and studied it and came up with a chemical equivalent, which contains side effects. And thereby destroys the body. What's trying to heal destroys it on the other end.
Isn't
So we
aspirin
all
natural?
have-
I was
Isn't
just gonna, I
aspirin-
was
Yeah,
just going to
white
say,
willow bark, yeah.
Yeah, white
years
willow bark
ago,
aspirin.
you see, people don't understand why herbs have fallen into disuse in this country, because herbs are prevalent in our very industrialized sister nations, but not in this country. And one of those reasons is very political and financial, and that is that in this country you cannot get a patent on an herbal formula.
No.
So why would you be a company that spends hundreds of millions of dollars bringing a product to market and not want to own it at the end? So you're not encouraged in this country to do the research. We get great research, for example, out of Germany, because in Germany you can get a mark on an herbal formula, and then the company will own it in the end. So long ago, a pharmaceutical company had heard anecdotally, scientifically, folklorically, that the bark of the white willow had analgesic properties, meaning it reduced fevers and muscle aches and pain. So they studied it, and indeed they found that the bark did have these properties. What they could have done was they could have taken the bark, dehydrated it, encapsulated it like you see in the health food store white willow bark capsules. But if they did that, they wouldn't have owned the product. So instead, they isolated the active ingredient. Now, the active ingredient is silicic acid, so they made acetylsalicylic acid. And that way they could copy the active ingredient and make a duplicate, as it were. Now, we lose a lot of wonderful medicinal herbs from the rainforest because they're too complex to copy, some of those herbs.
Would
But
white
aspirin
willow do
was
the
simple.
same? Would it do the same?
So that's
Yeah.
what I was just going to say. So the interesting thing is this. We know that there are side effects from aspirin. We know there are a lot of allergies. We know that it causes a minor internal hemorrhaging in everyone. That's why when you go in for surgery, you're asked to lay off the aspirin.
Right.
But white willow doesn't do that. Why? Because there are lesser active compounds in the white willow bark that they left out. Why? Either they were too complex to copy or they didn't think they were important enough. But nature presents a package as a whole. And
Right.
so those lesser active compounds mitigate the side effect of the active compound. So you want to take it in its whole.
So if somebody had a headache, would the white willow bark be as effective as an aspirin?
So it's not the silver bullet aspirin is, because you take 2 aspirin, you expect in 20 minutes a response. White willow bark, you might have to take 3-4 capsules, maybe you have to repeat the dose, so it will not act as quickly. It's not a silver bullet. Herbs are not silver bullets. Herbs don't work that way in the body because they are not imposing, they're helping the body to heal itself.
To heal itself,
That's
exactly.
huge what you just said. That,
Yeah,
and that
that's
takes
the
time.
answer.
And that takes time.
a
And
lot
we
of
don't
time.
want to wait. Give me
No,
the
we
pill
don't.
and let it be done. That's it. Give me the pill and let it be done.
Exactly, right. Now, I want to give you another example of how the entirety of the herb is so important. Everybody could have an aloe plant in their home or apartment. Aloe is very easy to grow. And I've always had a beautiful one that I never wanted to cut. In my kitchen, I always kept vitamin E capsules. They're great for minor kitchen burns. But one night, I had spilled a pot of boiling water on my hand. And
Oh, boy.
I took the vitamin
She's gone
E.
through it all.
I'm telling you. But you know why? I meant to learn from it.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
I learned through all these experiences so I
know.
can share with everybody else. So the vitamin E sizzled, and I knew I was in big trouble. And I had never, thank God, before ever experienced a burn of this profound pain. Ever. Never.
Boiling water's the worst.
So what I did was I thought, okay, I look around me, I see aloe. But something in me said, don't use just the gel. Now, from the health food store, we buy tubes of aloe gel. Something in me said, use the whole plant. So I cut, I looked for the juiciest, thickest stalk, and I cut it at its base, not at the tip, but at the base. And then you take a knife and you just slit up the stalk. It's like going through Jell-O. It's very easy. And now I had this open stalk, and I segmented the stalk and put a segment here and a segment here with the gel against the skin, but it was the whole leaf. And then I wrapped it around with roller gauze, very good thing to keep in your first aid kit, roller gauze. And I should have asked for help because I burned my left hand and I'm left-handed, but I didn't. So I did a sloppy job of affixing the stalks to my hand, which actually taught me a very important lesson that I can share with others. And that is that in the morning, wherever there was just gel, because the stalk slid, and there was only gel, it was blistered and red and painful. Right next to it, where there was stalk and gel,
wow,
it was totally healed.
Wow.
Overnight.
See, that's the whole
plant. So
chemical
there are clearly
compound
compounds
of this.
in the
Wow.
in the leaf
That's
that
so
don't
cool.
exist in the gel. So you use the whole plant whenever you can.
See that, folks?
That's
Tell
so,
ya.
so important. An important thing I know that we need to talk about, because this is a big part of your mission and your practice, is what you do in your practice with what is becoming and is an epidemic, Lyme disease.
Oh, it is. It is an
So
epidemic.
can you talk
Yeah.
about what you do, how you use the herbs and other modalities to treat this?
Yeah. So the issue with Lyme disease is this. I have found through my own testing I've been working with Lyme disease for 20 years, that when Lyme is chronic, the tick has traveled around. And it may have fed on a dog and picked up a strain of parvovirus. It may have fed on a mouse and picked up a strain of hantavirus. It may have fed on a squirrel, a rabbit, who knows what in nature. It may be infected with fleas. Fleas are a huge issue in passing disease. And then that tick travels onto a deer, and it picks up a spirochete. Now it travels to the human host, and it's passed a spirochete piggybacked by viruses. That is a whole different ball game than if someone is just bitten by a tick that passes a spirochete, 3 to 6 weeks of doxy, end of story. For these people, the viruses are not being addressed because antibiotics don't touch viruses. So the work that I do addresses the viruses. The AMA believes that Lyme disease is a bacterial disease. They said it 20 years ago. 20 years later, they're still saying the same thing. It's bacterial. So if you have been addressed with antibiotics and antibiotic cocktails and IV antibiotics and you're still not well, or you're getting well and relapsing and having that recurrence, then the AMA is saying then it's in your head. And I've seen a lot of clients on psychotropic drugs because it's in their head, or they're misdiagnosed as MS or a whole host of other things. And really, it's the viruses. So when someone has a recurrence, the virus has a very strong protein wall. It'll protect the spirochete from the antibiotics. Mm-hmm. So common thinking when you don't get well with antibiotics is the spirochete is burrowed down into the central nervous system. That's true. It's a true hypothesis, but it's the virus that keeps it there. So if you release the virus, you release the spirochete. Now, when people take antibiotics and get a surge of wellness and then relapse, it's because some spirochetes are responding to the antibiotics, and so they start to feel better, but then the viruses take over. So that's why my work in Lyme is so successful, because I'm addressing the viruses. Now, let's talk about preventing the ticks.
Yeah, that's a better idea.
So, one year, many, many years ago, I spent a summer in a reservation near my house, a park reservation, because I was determined that year I'm going to find out what gets rid of mosquitoes, what gets rid of black fly, what gets rid of ticks, because I am fodder for everything, and I had to figure it out. So I figured out that the oil of pennyroyal prevents mosquitoes. I found out the oil of lavender protects against black fly. And the oil of eucalyptus protects against ticks. Now when you mix them all together, it seems to confuse the insects because it doesn't work. So excuse me, you have to know what you're going out to so that you can pick your oil.
Oh,
so
okay.
on my website, you can go to articles and then click on, there are 3 articles on Lyme disease, and the first one contains the formula for how you use eucalyptus oil for dogs, because a lot of people never touch a blade of grass, but it's their dogs that are bringing in the ticks.
Right.
So you want to protect your dogs against the Lyme disease. If you're going out in nature and you're hiking or gardening or whatever, you want to protect yourself. So using oil of eucalyptus is the way to do that.
Aren't there other oils? There's other Another interesting thing is, you know, you can spray your yard with chemicals that are really, really bad, or now they have companies, I use one, that they have a tick spray, and one of the things is like, it's a, I don't know if it's raspberry, or there's something, is there something else too besides eucalyptus that is good for the ticks? Cedar wood? There's something else also.
I don't know what they put in their sprays. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a
there
spray,
may
and
be
that
other
might be
things.
more for the outdoors
For the
and
outdoors,
stuff. But
right.
that's another important thing, because if you spray Roundup or DEET or whatever, those things are awful for your whole nervous system as well.
And they go right into your liver, and they contaminate the groundwater.
Right.
Exactly. And so I found a company now, I have to say, with 4 dogs, we found like 2 ticks the whole summer.
Wow.
Which is pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
And I have a heavily wooded area.
Yeah.
So again, there are options even on how you protect your property, your children, your dogs, and yourself. And do you think certain people are more susceptible to Lyme disease than others? How come certain people will go in the woods, they're in the woods all the time, and they're fine? What is it a chemical thing? Is it a vibrational thing? What do you think?
I can't answer. I just
Could be
don't
karmic
know.
thing, could be
karmic
whatever.
It could be karmic. I don't know.
We don't know. We
I don't
really
know.
don't. But it's really sad, and it is misdiagnosed. And I
Yeah.
know that the way you treat it, also you do vibrational remedies.
I do.
That people have, that they do get results.
Yeah.
And that's...
But you know, I don't want people to think that I'm opposed to the antibiotics.
No, they're
For example, my son, when he was younger, was a caddy, and he picked up Lyme disease. Now, he had such a strong reaction, he was so sick, that I knew that he probably had ehrlichiosis with it. And I said, go to the doctor, get an antibiotic, but then you let me test you. And he had the viruses as well. So he took the antibiotic, I gave him the vibrational remedies for the viruses, Lyme disease was done and over with. Had he not done that, and he just done the antibiotics and not addressed the viruses, he would have gone on to have chronic Lyme.
Yep.
So best of both
So that's
worlds.
the marriage of bringing
Yep.
them both together, which is
Right.
important, because again, if people get too fanatical in one way or the other,
Not
then
good.
they're being short-sighted. They're not seeing that their healing comes with a marriage of different modalities.
Right.
And that's where I think everybody is getting a little tripped up. It's you know, got to be their way or the highway, and that's ego. And when there's ego involved, the healing kind of falls, you know, to the back seat.
That's right.
So we need to embrace it all and to be open to it.
Educate ourselves so we know what's out there, so that we can make the right decision.
One of my funny things this doctor told me, I don't know why it made me laugh, is he said, look, if you want to eat fish that has heavy metals, eat it with cilantro. And it cracked me up. So he's like, you want the tuna fish? You know, you want to have it? Eat it with the cilantro. So,
Because explain why.
cilantro pulls heavy metals
Right.
out of your body. And actually cilantro, with the radiation and the heavy metals anyway, is something that is really good to put in your, we use that in our salad dressings.
And
You can put
seaweed.
it in your smoothies.
Seaweed,
and
yeah, I love
seaweed is
seaweed.
really, really
Yeah.
important. Cilantro and seaweed are really important.
Right. I love to season my food with seaweed.
It's good. Is that Maine coast seafood? And again, you have to be careful. The resource now with the waters of the
Oh, gotta
seaweed
be very
has to
careful.
be. You don't want the
Yeah.
Pacific, but
No,
that
you
this
don't.
company in Maine, they harvest their seaweed, and it's really, really good. And it's that Maine coast seafood.
Yeah.
Maine coast, yeah.
Maine
That's where you
coast.
can get them in health food
Yeah.
stores.
Yeah, it's
And
really,
remember,
really good.
Barbara, how we've been saying for years we stay away from spirulina and algae
Yeah,
in
I
our
never.
greens
I
formula?
didn't feel comfortable with it.
Well, you see what's happening in the news recently.
No.
Because of the change in water table and global warming, you can't count on the algae being healthy in the water anymore. And was it in Ohio where the water
Yes.
had to be boiled? In those pools of water, the algae was no longer healthy.
what does that
And
mean? Why? Because
because it's not getting the right oxygen and water combination that they need for survival. And so when your water tables are constantly changing, that's going to affect algae. And where is our spirulina coming from?
So it gets moldy,
So
or
we
it
were
gets-
right all along.
yeah, it never really
Yeah.
turned me on
Yeah.
for some reason. I like it just clean, green.
Right. From vegetables, the things that we would normally eat.
Right, and going back to whole vegetables, like putting the whole vegetable in a smoothie, like an organic English cucumber, you put it in with the skin. You know, some people even use the avocado pit. Apparently that's medicinal, depending on what you have. And now one of our favorite things is, even if you get organic lemons, keep some of that skin on. The skin of the lemon has
I
amazing...
put that in my smoothie every day.
amazing medicinal properties in the skin.
Yeah, bioflavonoids, high in bioflavonoids.
If it's organic.
We have about 8 minutes left.
Oh, my.
So what else would you like to discuss on
So what is in your heart? What do you want to share? You could
with this last 8 minutes.
The last 8 minutes. What do you want people to know?
Well, I would like to talk about ear infections. That's a hot topic amongst children.
Okay.
Because 30 years ago, it was the odd child out that had an ear infection, and now it's unusual to find children who don't have them.
Why do you think that is?
Well, when the parents who are dealing with this ask their pediatricians, the answer is always, your child was born with narrowed eustachian tubes.
Oh.
And I don't think that we have biodiversified in 30 years so that we now produce children with the narrowed eustachian tubes. What I do think is that you know a baby's coming, you prepare a nursery, you're bringing all this paint on the crib, carpeting, wallpaper, all chemicals.
All the chemicals.
You are bringing that child into a chemical-laden chemical factory.
Right.
And so some children will respond according to their genetic weakness with a skin issue, and that'll be the child with eczema. Some will respond with asthma. Some will respond with ear infections. So you need to recognize right away if your child isn't quite right when you bring the child home because they're developing all these infections or inflammatory responses. It's all inflammation. Then you need to look at that and say what's going on. So the protocol that I developed for those children is, first of all, you know that when a child who is prone to ear infections gets a cold, the cold's going to go to an ear infection. So you start them on echinacea right away. Use it preventatively. Dr. Christopher makes a great herbal formula called Sinus Plus that adults and children can use. It's an herbal decongestant. So that child would be started on echinacea and Sinus Plus as the herbal decongestant. And then there is garlic oil and mullein oil. And these are used in the ear. They're fabulous for ear infections. So it spares the child from having to go through ear tubes. And you take dairy away, because dairy is a very mucus-forming food, and you can substitute it with almond milk or coconut milk, and then you're giving the child a chance to heal and build their immune function. There are many pediatricians now who don't even want to put children with ear infections on antibiotics. They want their own immune function to take over, so that they will be stronger and the healing will be stronger.
That's something else. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rosemary.
What do you think about colloidal silver?
Colloidal silver is good.
It is. I've used that for a lot of sinus infections here. I put it in my ears. I even spray it in my eye. If I'm getting an eye infection or something, or I'm getting very itchy eyes, I'll spray it in my eyes.
That's right.
And it just like that.
It's very antimicrobial.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing is that what you're saying is that sometimes, as long as it's not a raging fever, a low fever helps to build up the immunity in the body. And if we rush in again and try to give them aspirin and all these, pharmaceuticals, that's not good for their bodies either.
No, then you're dismantling the body's ability to heal itself, its immune center.
Right, because a lot of people, and now with the viruses and the work they're doing in Europe, is that they want to know you can run a fever, because that's showing that your immune system is kicking in. And also, I know you have an eczema cure. Can you tell us quickly?
Yes. Chickweed ointment. Chickweed is an herb for eczema. It's right on target. So you can do chickweed ointment, or for a child, if you want to give them a bath, you can make a tea out of the chickweed and soak them in the bath water.
Where do you get chickweed ointment?
Dr. Christopher makes it.
Okay.
He calls it now anti-itch ointment, but it's made with chickweed and beeswax, and you can just go online and buy it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You can get it in a health food store too, or just online?
Some of them who handle it,
Now, would that be good for extreme eczema, or is that more of an autoimmune?
No, any kind of eczema it's really good for.
Wow.
But you have to look at eczema as an allergic response to what? Probably food.
Probably dairy. Or
you have to look at the food.
And dairy is a big culprit with children too, that people need to know. There's so many alternatives: almond milk, hemp milk, coconut. I mean, now that's really easy.
It's so easy
to
substitute.
So, and you're saying also that the rice that everyone's been using as a substitute, even the rice milk and so forth, is that acidic?
It's acidic.
It is. Look, some people think that brown rice is okay. It's high glycemic, And so in the world of alkalinity and acidity, you want to go for the quinoa, you want to go for the buckwheat, you want to go for the millet, and the quinoa is really the best. So yes, in talking
Try
about
to do
that,
less rice, and when you do it, only use brown.
well, yes, but better to do quinoa,
Right.
or what
Quinoa's a
Dr.
great
Osborne to everyone, or
substitute.
kaniwa.
Great substitute. And you make it the same way.
It's so easy, and
but
it's
talk
so
about
high
the child with
protein.
eczema. Why wouldn't you take that child off the rice? Because eczema is an inflammatory response. So you want to take as much inflammation out of the diet as you can.
Right. And high glycemic is, sugar is inflammation, sugar is a drug. So it's that whole theory. You want to just calm the system down.
Right.
And there's so many really cool grains out there.
Yeah, there
And
are.
they should only be a small portion anyway.
People really don't know what to eat anymore.
No.
They don't understand.
Well, the
they don't know
funniest,
it.
I saw Dr. Oz and he talked about this new grain, kaniwa. You can't get it now. I mean, it's out of every store. It's apparently more protein than quinoa, so that's something else that you can check
Kaniwa,
out.
where did they?
Kaniwa.
Where'd
you
they
can
find
Google
that?
It's like a grain
Is it from
seed.
Africa or something?
I don't
Morocco?
know, but after he spoke about it,
Yeah,
I mean,
you
you
can't get it.
cannot get it. It's
Well,
like
that's good.
it's
People
really
are paying
hot.
attention.
Yes.
Well, actually, yeah.
They are.
They
They
are.
are.
But quinoa is great. It's light, it's fluffy. And the bottom line is usually rice is just something that you dress. So what does it matter if it's
Right.
quinoa? You're putting a sauce on it. It doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Or like we do, put cucumbers and avocados and lemon and parsley into quinoa.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Or
delicious.
a coconut curry sauce. And I mean,
Yes.
there's just so many really wonderful things. Eating healthy and healthy for your body is fun and easy.
It's so joyful. You feel
Yeah.
so good. You don't have to sit down to a meal and say, oh, why did I eat that? Now I don't feel good.
Exactly.
And there's a vibration to everything. There's a vibration to your food. So what happens is, as you start to implement healthy eating, you're naturally going to kind of move away from things that are not healthy. It happens naturally. Your body knows it, and you can't do it.
Yep.
I mean, we all have moments, but
It's true. You do feel better when you're eating healthy.
You do.
I myself, I do the same thing.
And it can be really delicious. We have smoothies. You can call Andrea or I. That I mean, you put it in the blender. It takes. I've showed you a smoothie. They're delicious.
Yep.
They are.
And for a treat, I do 85% dark chocolate. That's my treat.
And I will attest to it. She does. She does it.
I do.
And I would say maybe more often than
I do it every night.
organic.
But
organic dark chocolate.
85%, not less, because 85% is lower in sugar.
Right.
All right. Well, it's time to go. Boy, did that go fast, huh?
It always does when it's interesting. And
Oh, it
you're so
is.
dedicated, Andrea.
Thank you.
And you want to help people, and the world is a better place.
Well, thank you for the opportunity
Thank
to
you
share
so
it, because
much
that's
for
what my
coming
work
here.
is
Really
about.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
very
Thank
much.
you. We're going to give your information now. Mwah. To contact Andrea Candee, call 914-763-8889 or Andrea at AndreaCandee.com, which is her website. Well,
that's my email.
Email, that's
Or
what
go
I
to the
thought.
website.
Email. The website is www.andreacandee.com. And to learn more information about this show or any of our past shows, please contact us at healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com, or to reach me, Rosemary LaChance, the phone number is 203-627-7966, and my website is www.rosemarylachance.com. And for Barbara Slane, her emails is lifebalancecenter@gmail.com, or the www.lifebalancecenter.com, and also www.myhealingrooms.com, which you'll really enjoy. We're also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box. And tonight's quote is, principle, particularly moral principle, can never be a weather vane spinning around this way and that way with the shifting winds of expediency. Moral principle is a compass forever fixed and forever true. And that's by Edward R. Lyman. Well, that's all for tonight, folks. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Good night.
Feel your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.